The guillotine awaited. Her own brother held the execution order, but then Mielle, the family's golden child, waded through the crowd. She ignored the guards to say goodbye, her saintly act washing Aria in a wave of crushing guilt. But, just as Aria opened her mouth to whisper her first sincere apology, Mielle's face glitched. That innocent mask cracked into a look of pure malice. With a sadistic grin, she leaned in and hissed, "You really are an idiot, sis. The false accusations, the fall down the stairs, even the poison attempts. You think the maids gave you those ideas? Wrong. They work for me. I orchestrated every tantrum, every mistake. I staged this whole show just to prove you deserve to die. I've wanted you and your lowborn mother dead since day one. Oh, and Mom, that wasn't bad luck. I poisoned her myself. I don't know what's going through that head of yours, but seeing you broken like this, it's delicious. Goodbye, stupid Aria. I'll miss playing with you." Aria froze, her reality shattering. She never imagined the sister she bullied was actually the puppet master holding the strings. But the executioner didn't care about plot twists. The blade dropped. A cold bite darkness and her life was deleted. As she faded, she screamed internally to the universe. "Let me go back." She visualized an hourglass flipping sand rushing upward. She needed to expose the snake and save her mother. Crash. The sharp sound of shattering glass snapped her eyes open. She wasn't on the scaffold. She was in the dining hall. The whole family was there, sitting around the table. Her mother, alive and breathing, was currently yelling at her for knocking over a goblet. And there was Mielle, eyes wide with fake concern, asking if she was hurt. The universe had actually listened. Aria was back in the past. Staring at Mielle's perfect, deceitful face, she made a blood oath right then and there. She would settle the score. Mielle had spent years painting Aria as the villain, so Aria decided to embrace the role. If they wanted a villainess, she'd give them the best one they'd ever seen. Since father was home for a rare dinner, Aria dropped the bratty act and calmly recited a complex poem. This was the opening shot in her psychological war. The daughter who usually threw tantrums was suddenly quoting literature. Her father was shook, actually, looking proud, but Aria didn't care about his approval. She was watching Mielle. The saint cracked. Mielle clapped, forcing a smile but immediately threw shade. "Wow, I learned that one when I was 4, though. But it's great that you're catching up," she added casually. "Gotcha." Aria stayed silent, waiting. Mielle, desperate to reclaim the spotlight, walked right into the trap. "There's actually a second part," Mielle chirped. "Since Aria doesn't read much, I'll recite it for her." Mielle confidently delivered the lines, but instead of applause, the temperature in the room dropped below freezing. She had just recited a forbidden verse, a poem that cursed their noble house. In the old timeline, Aria had stumbled through this and gotten screamed at. Her brother had called her trash. Now her brother looked like he'd seen a ghost, his face totally pale. He stayed silent. Father cleared his throat, dismissing it. "She's young, she didn't know." He let it slide. No surprise there. Mielle was still the golden child, the obedient angel in their eyes. But Aria smirked internally. This was just the appetizer. Dismantling Mielle, piece by piece, would be way more entertaining. She turned her attention to her food, displaying perfect etiquette. She ate like a queen. Father noticed immediately and praised her improvement. That was Mielle's cue to attack. She giggled. "Oh, so when your plate was a disaster before, was it because you didn't know manners? I just assumed the servants served it messy." Old Aria would have flipped the table. New Aria put on a heartbreaking, sad puppy face. "Wait, are you saying the kitchen staff intentionally messed up my food because Mom and I are outsiders?" "No, surely it was just my clumsiness. I can't believe my sister, our Saint Mielle, would think so poorly of the staff." Boom. The words were sweet, but the poison was lethal. Mielle was cornered. She shook with rage, forced to mutter a weak apology to save face, claiming she spoke without thinking. The next day, Aria spilled the tea to her tutor, Sarah, framing herself as the victim. Then she pivoted. "Teach me embroidery," she begged. "I want to make something beautiful." It was time for phase 2. After mastering lilies, she asked to learn roses. Why roses? Because that was the symbol of Oscar Mielle's fiancé. She was going to steal him. Sarah hesitated, sensing a shift in Aria's vibe was a bit too calculated. Aria immediately switched back to clueless innocent girl mode, and Sarah's defenses dropped completely. Flashback time, the old Aria took more L's than a broken scoreboard. Meanwhile, her sister Mielle was the golden child, and society loved pitting them against each other like a toxic reality show. Past Aria bought into the lie that she was second best, but tonight the vibe shifted while father stressed over his business empire. Mielle piped up, pitching a leather business like she was some teen mogul. She claimed high society girlies were obsessed with leather belts. Dad looked skeptical, but Aria, she knew better. Having literally lived this timeline already, she knew leather was a total flop, high maintenance, and smelled funky. Zero hype. The maids caught Aria drawing a breath to speak. You could practically hear the gossip starting. To them, Aria was just the clueless airhead who should have stayed silent. Then she dropped the mic. Aria didn't just speak. She dismantled the leather argument and pivoted straight to fur. She laid out the booming future of the fur trade with surgical precision. Father stopped chewing, his business brain suddenly buzzing. The logic was flawless. But then the skepticism hit. How does a kid barely over 10 years old drop knowledge like a seasoned CEO? He narrowed his eyes, demanding to know her source. In the cutthroat world of commerce, insider intel is the ultimate currency. Playing it cool, Aria hit him with a casual, "I forgot." Dad immediately signaled a lackey to fact-check her claims. Desperate to reclaim the spotlight, Mielle handed over a childhood trinket, realizing her dumb sister was suddenly stealing the show. A few days later, the check cleared. Dad went all in on fur because Aria's intel was solid gold. Just as he was heading out, Aria gifted him an embroidery piece so intricate it left the whole room shook. Then the petty queen turned to Mielle with a sweet smile. "Need a handkerchief, sis?" It was a verbal slap in the face. Mielle's mask slipped. She'd been grinding on her embroidery skills, but her tutor was trash compared to Aria's natural talent. Meanwhile, Aria's mom started plotting about Oscar Mielle's crush. If they could reel him in, they'd secure the bag and the status. Mother and daughter locked eyes telepathically, agreeing Mielle was going down. With the brother away at school, Mielle was stuck doom spiraling over her needlepoint all day. Then tutor Sarah pulled up fishing for an invite to a tea party just to flex her adorbed student Aria. Aria paused for dramatic effect, then said yes. But a tea party meant she needed a fit that screamed main character. Problem was, her wardrobe was giving toddler chic. A devious light bulb went off, time to raid Mielle's stash. She sent Jessie away and went full arsonist, torching her own closet. The flames roared, bringing the household running. Aria instantly switched into helpless victim mode, tears trembling, an Oscar-worthy performance of the damsel in distress. With her clothes turned to ash, Mom played the perfect card. "Just borrow something from your sister, sweetie." Mielle wanted to scream, but refusing would ruin her angelic rep. She caved, not realizing she was walking into a trap. Aria beelined for one specific dress, the birthday gift from Oscar. Mielle's heart dropped into her stomach. How did she know about that? But saying no meant looking stingy, so Mielle had to swallow her rage to keep her halo polished. While Mielle seethed, Jessie whispered the good news. The hourglass was fixed. Aria hopped in a carriage to downtown. But rolling through these streets hit different. This was where she'd been executed in her past life. Panic tightened her chest. The ride ended at a boutique, and she stepped into the plush, high-end interior to distract herself. She swiped her card on everything cute and dipped. Outside, two paperboys caught her eye. Instant flashback to her grimy childhood days and her old bestie Hans. Poor kid got flattened by a carriage while hustling papers, and the driver did a hit and run. Tragic. Aria didn't hesitate. She told Jessie, "Buy their entire stock. Tip them a month's wages. If they print more, buy those too." Scanning the fresh ink, a headline popped. The Crown Prince was going to war against slavery. If she could team up with a powerhouse like him, her revenge list would be checked off in record time. But right now, she was a nobody to him. Pulling up to the repair shop, she saw her lifeline, the hourglass looking brand new. Pure dopamine. She slapped down double the cash without blinking. But then the vibe shifted. A hooded figure drifted past. They didn't even touch her, yet a cold shiver ran down her spine. Unexplained terror gripped her. Shaking it off, she spotted casino entry passes on the counter. Spying an opportunity, Aria told the owner to sell those tickets to her right then and there. Because the Crown Prince is about to shut this whole casino operation down, making those high-priced tickets worth absolutely zero. The owner looks totally lost, but the hooded figure in the corner. He clocks the situation instantly. He drops the guards like it's nothing, snatches Aria's wrist, and demands to know what she's talking about. The black hood slides back. Bam. Face reveal, he is gorgeous. Aria freezes, locking eyes with him. Those eyes hit different. Familiar. She thinks, have I seen this guy before? He sees her go silent, and is about to get physical. Aria thinks fast and cooks up a lie about Viscount Luba. She claims he's taking heavy losses selling the casino and skipping town. Total fabrication, but it sounds legit. The guy can't fact-check her on the spot, so he releases his grip. As he watches her fade into the crowd, his sidekick mistakes her for Mielle. Mielle the man whispers, "That name means bee." But she doesn't have the sting. She feels so familiar. Have I met her? His partner suggests running a background check. The man waves it off. He has bigger fish to fry. But as he replays the encounter, the warmth of her hand lingers on his skin way too long. He can't shake the feeling. Cut to Aria back at the mansion. She is fuming at her guards' incompetence and starts roasting them with sarcasm. But wait, strategy shift. She needs loyalty. She pours them tea and water herself. Kill them with kindness. It works like a charm. Boom, 2 loyal minions unlocked. But internally, she is still shaking. That handsome stranger was terrifying. She prays their paths never cross again. Meanwhile, Mr. Handsome is rallying his squad. It is go time. They are raiding the casino tonight. Sarah swings by to prep Aria on the tea party protocols. The noble girlies love swapping handmade gifts to flex their skills at these events. Aria's embroidery game is god tier, so she preps some handkerchiefs to build her social network. It is a family tradition too, but Aria and Mielle, they aren't family. They are rivals, and neither is backing down. With Sarah's coaching, Aria stitches an imperial design. Step 1. Use it to psychologically destroy Mielle. She hands it over and Mielle's expression glitches. She looks absolutely sick. Standing next to a sister who does everything better, Mielle cannot handle the heat and hides her face. She scrambles for an excuse and bails. Setup complete. Aria heads to the tea party. She plans to walk on eggshells. One wrong move means repeating her tragic past. Her guards are still twitchy from yesterday, but seeing Aria smile calms them down. On the ride over, Aria feels uneasy. Major bad vibes pending. Aria makes her grand entrance. All eyes are on her. She is dressed simply, no flash, just grace. The gossip starts. She isn't a brat like the rumors say. Her elegance and sad backstory instantly win the crowd over. She plays the victim card flawlessly, painting Mielle as the villain without even trying. Then she reveals the custom handkerchiefs. The crowd goes wild. Total clout boost. They suggest a stroll, but someone kills the mood. Wait, Viscount Luba is tied to the casino and human trafficking. It is dangerous out there. Even the careful crown prince. Let him slip away. Aria's heart stops. Did her little lie actually derail the prince's master plan? It is not her revenge, but she cannot ignore the mess she made. She dips early and sends her goon John to get intel. But John's contact keeps his mouth shut about the prince. John knows if he returns empty-handed, Aria will roast him alive. Desperate, John hits up a repair shop for info. He chats with the owner, and lights out. Drugged water. He wakes up in the dark, and there he is. The handsome stranger, aka the crown prince, standing next to John's friend. They think John is a spy for Viscount Luby. Time for a little interrogation. Suddenly, noise outside breaks the tension. The team moves out immediately. Cut to the next morning. John returns with zero intel. Aria is livid. Her face goes completely dark. Turns out Luba was arrested yesterday near a hotel. John spent all night circling the casino for nothing. Totally useless, Aria thinks to herself. Now that the dust had settled, it was time to get back on the grind. Aria hit up her mother for permission to level up her skills and bring in a whole squad of new tutors. She wasn't naive. She knew plenty of clout chasers were lining up now, desperate to get on her good side. But the second word got out that the family had kicked her to the curb. Those fake friends would ghost her instantly. That's why she had to network hard while she still had the upper hand. The tutors rolled in like a revolving door. Their constant bootlicking was honestly suffocating. But hey, she'd use it to ace her classes. Besides, the endgame was snatching Oscar. Just picturing Mielle in absolute agony brought a wicked smirk to Aria's face. While she was zoning out on her revenge fantasy, Sarah noticed the vibe and asked what had her glowing. Aria spilled the tea on everything that went down recently, keeping it precise. Look, I have a ton of teachers now, but you're still the GOAT. Sarah beamed, eating up the compliment, completely oblivious to the master plan brewing in Aria's head. Meanwhile, little sister Mielle was over there, seething. It looked like she was destined to stay in Aria's shadow when it came to embroidery skills. While Aria was riding high, a commotion erupted outside. She immediately sent Jessie to scope out the situation. While she crashed on the bed for a power nap, waking up starving, she threw open the door and headed downstairs. Noticing the house was suspiciously quiet, she didn't wait for Jessie's report. She walked into the living room and spotted the guest. It was Oscar, Mielle's crush. Aria's eyes lit up. It was officially showtime for her revenge tour. She bolted upstairs for a fit change. Mielle clocked that Aria had seen Oscar, and panic instantly washed over her face. Desperate, Mielle tried to rush lunch, but Aria, she took her sweet time getting glam and descended like a goddess, leaving Oscar totally shook. Witnessing this glow-up, Mielle felt a massive crisis incoming. Aria looked so lethal that even her brother Kane turned beet red, his heart pounding out of his chest. Oscar immediately locked in on Aria, leaving Mielle in the dust. Watching her sister steal the spotlight, Mielle cut in aggressively, flexing the dress Oscar had gifted her. Kane jumped in to back her up, trying to push for a shopping date between Oscar and Mielle, but he completely fumbled the play. And Oscar flipped the script, suggesting the siblings go shopping together instead. Panic mode activated. Mielle stammered, "But we can't just leave our guest hanging." Oscar hit them with that innocent look and said, "But isn't Lady Aria here?" Glaring at her sister, Mielle was literally shaking with rage. Aria saw the opening wide open and wasted zero time ordering a carriage to ship the siblings out of there. Bye-bye. She personally made sure Oscar was comfortable. Once Aria retreated to her room, she did a little victory dance. Jessie stood there awkward and confused, asking what to do with the stash of handkerchiefs. Aria figured Mielle was planning to gift one to Oscar too, so she grabbed one as a backup plan. Watching the siblings' carriage roll away, Aria smirked to herself. She cracked open a book to prep for class, but the history of nobility was boring her to tears, so she headed to the garden to touch grass. Just as she tilted the watering can near the entrance, Oscar swung the door open and took a direct hit. Water soaked him from head to toe. Aria started apologizing profusely, but Oscar brushed it off, stepping closer to gently hold her hands. Internally, Aria was freaking out. One slip-up now could nuke her entire plan. For revenge. With that terrifying thought, she turned on the waterworks. Seeing her tears, Oscar immediately tried to comfort her. He was showing his cards, a soft-hearted guy who crumbled when a girl cried. Perfect. Aria capitalized on the moment, handing him the handkerchief she'd prepped. Oscar took it to dry off, but paused when he spotted the design. Wait, isn't this my family's crest? Aria didn't miss a beat. The Frederick crest is just so elegant, and since you're technically the first guest I've ever hosted, it feels like destiny, doesn't it? Oscar mulled it over and pocketed the handkerchief. Aria flashed a winning smile and told Jessie to run her a bath. After saying his goodbyes, Oscar felt a shift. He was definitely catching feelings for this stunning girl. Dinner rolled around, and Kane and Mielle finally dragged themselves back from their trip. They had picked up a gift for Oscar, a set of 3 quill pens. Oscar practically sighed out loud. The man could not care less, but he thanked them politely anyway. Aria sat back watching the clown show unfold. She could have dragged out the handkerchief drama, but she played it cool. Instead, she hit him with those puppy dog eyes, pure victim mode. Oscar clocked it instantly, all worried about her fragile state. Meanwhile, Mielle, she was absolutely fuming. Literally green with envy, she dropped her fork like a mic drop gone wrong. Fast forward to the next day. Oscar and Kane bounced back to the academy. Aria's mom rushed home from across the border the second she heard the tea. But she missed Oscar leaving her, looking low-key bummed. Luckily, Aria had already secured the bag. Moments later, the house received a generic thank you package, but then the butler dropped a bomb. There was a second delivery, and this one was exclusively for Miss Aria. Mielle looked like she'd seen a ghost. Aria didn't miss a beat. Guess he really liked my handkerchief. Mielle was mortified, hoping the letter would save face, but Aria played the shy card and refused to read the note out loud. She ordered Emma Mielle's own maid to unbox the swag. Total power move. Everyone gasped at the dress, but Aria couldn't care less about the fabric. She snatched the pin tucked inside and bailed. She rolled up to the tea party, handing out her hand-stitched embroidery like VIP passes, which the noble ladies ate up. After soaking in the praise and some fake pleasantries, the party wrapped. Just as Aria was hopping into her ride, she spotted a stranger in the driver's seat. Red flag. She had someone ID him immediately. Turns out it was the old driver who was supposed to be retired. Aria was livid. Why wasn't I told about this switch? If she had just blindly hopped in. She choked back the rest. She knew exactly how this script ended. One ride in that death trap, and it would have been game over. Mielle had clearly planted useless staff around her on purpose. So young, yet so snaky. Mielle really earned her villainous title. Having already died once by Mielle's poison, Aria wasn't taking chances. She told the driver to head back solo. The carriage rattled with sketchy noises as it left. Definitely Mielle's handiwork. She wasted no time. And dispatched a guard to find a new ride. He grumbled about her humble origins as he walked away, claiming bad security was just part of the package for someone like her. Whatever. She and Jessie ducked into a jewelry boutique. The owner took one look at Aria's drip and knew she was money. He scrambled to bring out the top-tier inventory. Aria hesitated between 2 brooches. This was for Oscar after all. It needed to scream expensive. The bigger the price tag, the better the impression. She settled on the blue one. Then she commissioned a batch of custom pins, sketching the design right there on the counter. The jeweler did a double take, because that was clearly the Rosent family crest. But this girl, she didn't match the trashy rumors at all. She had style and cash to burn. Desperate to lock in a VIP client, he threw in a sapphire necklace on the house. Aria beamed at the thoughtful bribe, promising to become a regular customer. Since her ride was still MIA, Aria decided to kill time with some tea. The other guard was just loitering, so she sent him to hunt down a carriage too. But she couldn't shake the nerves. That near-death experience had rattled her. She cracked a window for air watching the commoners hustle below. It hit her hard. She'd barely clawed her way into high society. She had to hold the line. No way was she letting Mielle drag her back to the gutter. The Rosent family was going to pay up. Suddenly, a familiar silhouette caught her eye. She squinted. It was that rude provincial noble from before. His piercing blue eyes locked onto hers, and he smirked like he knew a secret. Aria blushed instantly, her heart hammering against her ribs. She slammed the curtains shut, totally flustered. What was his deal? The guy was usually an iceberg. Why the smile? A wave of anxiety washed over her. Suddenly, the tea tasted like ash. She needed to bounce, desperately trying to push him out of her mind. The mission was revenge, not romance. No distractions allowed, but just as she stepped toward the carriage, her bouquet slipped. The man swooped in to catch it. Fate, it seemed, wasn't done with them yet. Ever since she turned back time, things had been chaotic. Holding the flowers, he dropped a smooth line. Thanks to your advice, my treasure is safe. Aria just looked at him unimpressed. So the guy claims to be a broke noble, but that aura, pure dominance. Impossible to ignore. Talk about a mood swing. Aria kept her face ice cold, but with everyone watching, she couldn't just shut him down. The guy dropped to one knee instantly, offering up the bouquet like a scene from a romance novel. Aria was dying to know his background, but all she got was a name Asher. She had a servant sniff test the flowers first, can't be too careful, and only relaxed when the coast was clear. She turned to bounce, but Asher wasn't done. He tried to smooth things over with a classic hand kiss, framing it as an apology. Aria hard pass, no hesitation. As she stepped into her carriage, she accidentally dropped the blooms and crushed them under her heel. Total savage mode. Staring at the wrecked petals, she feigned a little, oops, my bad. Asher looked shocked for a split second before bursting into genuine laughter. She was hoping to see him cringe, so this reaction was a total letdown. But it also raised red flags. Who is this guy? By the time the sun set and Aria rolled back to the mansion, her curiosity was peaking. Twist, the original driver, was down with food poisoning. Yeah, right. Aria knew this wasn't bad sushi. This had Mielle written all over it. John dropped the bomb, the old carriage had loose parts. If she'd taken that ride, she'd be roadkill. Aria played it cool, praised John, and sent him off with a fat bonus. Stealing Oscar was definitely the power move. It was the only way to push Mielle over the edge, forcing her to show her true villainous colors. Problem is, Mielle's got a squad. The whole house is Team Mielle. Aria needed a heavy hitter, so she decided to weaponize her mom. She spilled every gritty detail. Mom absolutely livid. She summoned the whole household to roast the driver. The guy was panic-stricken and mute. Aria poured gasoline on the fire, shifting the heat to the head butler. I mean, he controls the staff, right? The butler immediately bowed his head and owned it. Total negligence, he claimed. But this guy runs the show. Aria realized firing him was a rookie move. She needed him on her side, so she flipped the script and defended him. Sensing the real mastermind was hiding, Aria locked eyes with Mielle, and Mielle was shaking in her boots. She never calculated a failure scenario. Aria threatened to bring in the guards. Terrified of getting exposed, Mielle blurted out, "Even if there was an accident, you wouldn't have died." Boom. Aria caught the slip-up instantly. "How would you know the severity of the crash, sis? Unless you planned it." Mielle started stammering. Emma, her snake of a maid, quickly whispered a save into her ear. Mielle caught the lifeline and managed to spin her way out of the corner. Aria switched gears to heartbroken sister, whimpering that she could have been dead, then masterfully changing the subject. She claimed she would have died of grief if anything happened to Mielle. She buried her face in her mom's shoulder, sobbing. Mielle felt a chill. She knew the old dumb Aria was gone. This was a predator, Mielle realized. She had to cut her losses. If she didn't sacrifice her pawn now, her perfect angel reputation was toast, and her credibility would hit zero. She had to fold. The drama finally died down. Dinner was peaceful. Aria dined solo, while Mielle raged in her room, faking a migraine. Best meal ever. Just as Aria was enjoying the silence, the butler walked in. The jewelry delivery was here. And catch this, the butler's vibe had shifted. He was leaning Team Aria now. Mom was ready to drop the hammer on the staff. Aria checked the goods first, an exquisite brooch. Way better than she imagined. Then Mom rallied the troops for the verdict. Result, the driver who bailed got demoted and the replacement scab got fired on the spot. Mielle started feeling actual stress, but played it off as faintness. She tried to use the sympathy card to escape, but Aria wasn't having it. Not so fast, sis. She signaled Jessie to bring out the heavy artillery, the sapphire necklace. The room gasped. Aria handed the gems to Mielle. Annie the maid was shook. She didn't think Aria had it in her to be this generous. Ignoring Mielle's awkwardness, Aria clasped the necklace around her sister's neck herself. Annie. Jealousy practically radiated off the mother as she watched the scene, a picture of fake harmony orchestrated by her own commands. She turned on her heel and dipped. Back in the sanctuary of her room, Aria sipped her afternoon tea, vibing on one violent hope, that the desperate, disgraced coachman would literally slice Mielle's head clean off. Her mind drifted to Emma Mielle's snake of a maid. That woman was always whispering toxic advice in Mielle's ear. If Mielle went down, Emma was definitely the mastermind. Aria planned to use Annie to dig up dirt on her, but right now, she had bigger fish to fry. Specifically sliding into Oscar's world via letter. She immediately ordered Jessie to courier the package and the note. With a casual flick of the wrist, she spun the hourglass. Suddenly glitch in the matrix. Jessie was standing right there, repeating her last sentence. Aria stared, totally shook. They literally just had this convo. The pen she dropped, back on the desk. The letter she sent, back in her hand. She thought she was tripping, straight up, hallucinating. In her memory, Jessie had already walked out with that letter. But looking down at her desk, the paper stack was full. 0 pages missing. It meant she hadn't even started writing yet. Aria found it bizarre. But before she could spiral, she passed out cold. Cut to noon the next day, Jessie walking in with fresh juice. Aria couldn't believe she slept in that late. Her eyes landed on the hourglass. She gave it another casual spin. And boom, magic. Jessie instantly appeared behind her, the empty glass refilled to the brim. A light bulb went off in Aria's head. A totally unhinged theory. What if she actually rewinded time? Connecting the dots with her earlier déjà vu, Aria realized the hourglass wasn't just decor. It physically dragged her back. A few minutes into the past, a sly grin crept across her face. After some trial and error, she finally cracked the code on how to trigger the artifact. The catch, she could only flip it once a day, and it only rewinded 5 minutes. But honestly, that was plenty of time to cause absolute chaos. Like roasting her tutor and mocking her son to their faces, then snap rewinding reality to fake compliment them instead. The only downside was the physical toll. It drained her energy like crazy. But Aria didn't care. Revenge creates no fatigue. She kicked off her petty era, tormenting Mielle relentlessly, dumping water on her, tripping her in the hallway. Mielle's screams for help echoed through the mansion. And the best part, she could always hit undo with the hourglass. It definitely spiced up her boring life. But the silence from Oscar was getting loud. 2 whole weeks, 0 news. She replayed the servant's intel. Oscar took the gift. But he was probably swamped with finals. The servant looked stressed, so Aria threw him a bone with some casual, comforting words. The gift was the key. Even if the letter made him cringe, forcing him to think about her was a strategic win. Still, Aria was spiraling. She even debated wasting her hourglass turn to manipulate his feelings. Finally, the reply came. She tore into the letter. And wow, the audacity. He was clearly friend-zoning her, drawing a hard line in the sand, like she was going to accept that. Please. She summoned Jessie and immediately penned a clapback. Moments ago, she had used the hourglass glitch to duplicate snacks, eat them, rewind, and the plate is full again. She handed the extras to the staff. Unlimited food cheat code. She got to stuff her face and buy the servant's loyalty. Jessie looked like she was about to cry tears of joy. Then she pulled out the book. Jessie fetched Basic Economics, the kid-friendly edition. Aria was ready to grind. Brains were the new beauty standard. In this archaic system, girls were banned from the academy. Aria had to be self-taught, and that hustle would pay off huge later. If she wanted her father, the Count, to actually take her seriously, she needed to talk numbers. She was plotting her own empire, studying hard to build her own bag. But Jessie interrupted the hustle. She needed deets on Aria's upcoming birthday bash. Usually Aria went big, grand parties, massive scenes. This year she went ghost. No party, just a chill tea sesh with a few noble girls she actually tolerated. She knew Mielle's birthday was right around the corner. The plan, create a massive contrast. If Aria played the humble saint, Mielle would look tacky. Low profile was the power move. Just then, Miss Sarah arrived. Aria beamed, welcoming her in while the maids swooned over the wholesome vibes. She clocked it. Instantly. Sarah wasn't just a friend. She was her ticket to the top, her ultimate power-up. When Sarah swung by to fish for birthday gift ideas, Aria didn't hesitate. She didn't want jewels. She specifically requested a handkerchief. Sarah's face lit up, and she whipped out a deluxe box, but Aria gently pushed it aside. She wanted something exclusive, one stitched by Sarah's own hands. Sister items, she urged. Just for the two of them. Sarah melted. Visibly moved, she stepped in close, gripping Aria's hands tight, promising total dedication to the project. But internally, Aria felt a twinge of helplessness. She had seen the script. She knew exactly what was coming down the pipeline. Sarah was destined to crash into the marquee on the social circuit, spark a whirlwind romance, and completely ghost her friends. Except, Sarah looked totally over it. Her vibe shifted, expression darkening at the thought of high society. Aria read the room instantly and pivoted, asking what was first on the agenda after hitting adulthood. Sarah's response, a total curveball. A teacher. For Sarah, nothing beat the pure joy of growing up alongside children. Aria's jaw practically hit the floor. She hadn't realized Sarah actually vibed with her that much. This twist, absolute perfection. Once Sarah ascended to the role of Marquis's wife, Aria would be right there in her orbit. And by then, she wouldn't just be a side character. She'd be radiant, impossible to overlook. Cut to Aria's big day. The young socialites were lining up, showering her with presents. Yet Aria's smile didn't reach her eyes. Oscar was a no-show, completely ghosting her despite the invite she'd personally penned. Before she could spiral, the girls chanted for an unboxing. Aria scanned the pile, cheap, rough workmanship everywhere. She plastered on a plastic smile, mentally marking the whole lot for Jessie's donation pile. Then Sarah stepped up. Aria lifted the lid. There, nestled next to the handkerchief, lay a pair of exquisite gloves. Sarah revealed her own hands rocking a matching set. Sarah beamed, showing them off to the crowd. Aria froze, literally speechless. The craftsmanship screamed dedication. Hands down the GOAT of birthday gifts. The room buzzed with compliments on Aria's outfit, highlighting her flawless porcelain skin. Looks pricey, they whispered. Aria flashed a winning smile, dropping the credit on her father, the Count. Then she dropped the bomb, her actual favorite gift, a teddy bear from her dad. The curiosity in the room spiked, so Aria unveiled the plushie. It was dripping in diamonds, a total fashion crime. The ladies recoiled in horror, but Sarah, she innocently thought the blinged-out bear was actually adorable, bless her heart. Jessie rolled in with tea and sweets, but just as the party was kicking into high gear, Crash Mielle burst onto the scene. She went straight for the jugular, loudly demanding why Aria had snubbed her. From the guest list, Aria shot up, scrambling for a defense. She played the health card, claiming Mielle was too fragile to attend. Mielle smirked pure disdain. She signaled Emma to hand over a bouquet. Dropping some fake well wishes, she bounced, leaving Aria standing there with her mouth hanging open, a sister snubbing her own kin. That was prime gossip fuel. Panic set in. The hourglass her undoing button was upstairs. Did she have time to sprint and grab it? Wait, Aria, pump the brakes. There was no need to blow this out of proportion. She flipped the script, painting Mielle as a delicate flower, who was clearly struggling with their blended family dynamic. After all, Aria and her mom were the intruders. Maybe Mielle just wasn't ready to cope. Aria turned on the waterworks, blaming herself. It worked like a charm. Sarah rushed to comfort her. The room instantly shifted, showering Aria with sympathy. Mielle had finally found her shot to humiliate Aria, but Aria parried the attack like a pro. The party wrapped up on a high note. Sarah rolled out in her carriage, leaving Aria solo in her room. She torched Mielle's bouquet, watching the petals crumble to ash. Lesson learned, keep the hourglass on her at all times, just in case. Suddenly, Jessie burst through the door. Alert, Oscar was in the building. While Aria scrambled to change, Mielle seized the initiative, swooping in to chat up the noble Oscar. She noted he looked a bit thinner, then subtly steered the convo toward Aria. It was painfully obvious. Oscar had zero clue it was her birthday. The white flowers, just a courtesy prop. Mielle dialed up the victim act, whining about being excluded from the party. She claimed she'd only popped down to drop a gift before retreating. Then she went for the kill, asking Oscar to attend her birthday bash instead. He looked hesitant, but seeing Mielle's puppy dog eyes, he caved and said yes. Aria was lurking outside, straining to listen, but missed the critical deets. Mielle clocked the door opening and jumped up, performing a gracious yield, the stage maneuver. But as she brushed past Aria, a smirk of pure malice, Aria felt a pit in her stomach. Once again, she was in the dark about what they'd actually discussed. Aria kept her cool during the greeting, casually flashing the hair ornament he'd given her, proof she cherished his gift. Oscar was absolutely spellbound, but then he dropped the awkward question, why wasn't he wearing the brooch she had sent him? Before he could make an excuse, Aria cut him off, claiming she was a total rookie at picking out gifts. She played the please don't reject me card perfectly, and just like that, the guy's defenses melted. He originally planned to return it to her, but fate decided to throw a major curveball. Aria stepped in close and pinned the brooch on him herself. And let's be real, Oscar's resolve was crumbling fast. He tried to counter by gifting her flowers, but our cunning queen wasn't about to settle for a bouquet. She begged him to be her pen pal, putting on a masterclass performance of the lonely, friendless girl. Oscar knew the drill. He should say no. High society rumors are absolutely lethal. But seeing Aria's puppy dog eyes, he caved. He reluctantly agreed, and Aria was internally screaming with victory. She could barely keep a straight face. Oscar rationalized it, thinking a few letters wouldn't hurt anyone. She seemed so pitiful he couldn't just ghost her. The meetup ended with positive vibes all around. The next morning, Aria woke up with blurry vision, the price of abusing that hourglass yesterday. Totally worth it, though. Without that rewind, Oscar would have rejected her. Now she needed a device to track her time hacks. Suddenly, Jessie burst into the room, freaking out about Aria's health, like a total helicopter parent. To be fair, Aria had been dropping some dark, ominous hints about her life lately. Seeing Jessie's stubborn loyalty, Aria decided to switch up the dynamic. She literally cornered Jessie against the wall. The maid looked terrified. Flashbacks of the old abusive Aria were definitely playing in her head. Aria read the room, admitted she used to be a nightmare, and pinned a gold brooch on Jessie's chest. A legitimate apology and a subtle flex for the other maids to see who's boss. Rich, generous, and suddenly reformed, Aria sent Jessie on a luxury errand to the jeweler. The Mission Commission, a custom pocket watch that resets every 5 minutes. As Jessie's carriage rolled out, Aria spotted another visitor pulling up to the estate. It was Miss Sarah. Aria scrambled to change her outfit and get downstairs to welcome her. If the script held true, Mielle was about to send a spy, disguised as a clumsy maid. To counter this, Aria decided to draft a pawn she could easily manipulate. She eyed a short-haired maid. But right when she picked her, the girl tried to bail, using Mielle as an excuse. Time for Plan B. She asked about Annie, the youngest maid, then barked an order at the short-haired girl. Bring me the hourglass. Boom! She hit the rewind button 5 minutes into the past. Knowing the short-haired girl was a dead end, Aria preemptively drafted Annie as her temp maid. The freckled girl was summoned, standing there mesmerized as she watched Aria and Sarah's elegant dance lesson. Just then, Jessie returned from her errand absolutely drenched in sweat. Aria poured her a glass of water immediately, a perfect performance of the benevolent mistress for Annie's benefit. Jessie, still out of breath, tried to apologize for whatever drama happened earlier. But the trap was already sprung. Annie was hooked on the visuals, and the intel reached Mielle instantly. Hearing Aria was short-staffed, Mielle graciously offered to share her own maid. It looked like sisterly love, but it was straight-up surveillance on the Oscar situation. Aria walked right into the trap on purpose. Annie was officially appointed as her second maid. She knew Mielle wanted a spy, but Annie was painfully bad at it, literally staring at her constantly. It was getting creepy, so Aria threw some busy work at her just to get some breathing room. Surprisingly, Annie was a beast at cleaning, but she also carried a very specific, strong scent. That was the leverage Aria needed. She grabbed Annie's chin and started applying makeup on her. This wasn't a makeover, it was the foundation of revenge. Annie looked in the mirror and was absolutely shook by her own reflection. Her loyalty began to waver. That scent told Aria everything this maid had been stealing Mielle's expensive cosmetics. Checkmate. Riding the momentum, she offloaded her entire stash of luxury cosmetics onto Annie. She even tossed in a silk ribbon to sweeten the deal. Then came the hook grind hard enough, and she could snag a gold brooch just like Jessie's. That's a one-way ticket to better opportunities. Annie's eyes practically glowed at the thought. Aria immediately pivoted, launching into a masterclass on tea party etiquette. Maids raised in high society houses always have that Cinderella complex, dreaming of becoming noble ladies themselves. It made Annie feel small, but she was secretly vibing with the fantasy. Aria had this girl pegged materialistic, cunning, and a total snake. She was ready to turn this crow into a phoenix, but the price tag, absolute loyalty. Aria would be her VIP pass to the high life. Basically, she was forcing Annie to pick a team right now. Plot twist. Annie hesitated. It looked like the glitter of Aria's offer was fighting a losing battle against the sheer terror of Mielle. Mielle's threats hit different, but honestly, Aria saw that wobble coming from a mile away. After dismissing the maid, Aria crashed onto her bed. Reality check: in this current state, she couldn't body Mielle just yet. She had to play the long game, waiting for the perfect strike. Time slipped by. Aria stared numbly at the chaotic scene below. Happy birthday, Mielle. The whole town turned up with tribute. Carriages stuffed with gifts, just a parade of noble vanity. Aria couldn't care less about the flex. Her mind was 100% on Oscar. Her pen pal still hadn't replied. Just as Aria's brow furrowed in annoyance, another carriage pulled up. She thought it was him. Nope, it was her father, the Count. She hadn't seen him in ages. He came back specifically for Mielle's big day. Ouch. Aria couldn't help but flash back to her mother's tragic end and her own execution. She swore that once her revenge was complete, these warm family moments would be nothing but a fever dream. The target wasn't just Mielle. She was coming for the entire Rosent bloodline, just as she was planning to. Weaponize the hourglass at the party. A random variable named Ryan showed up. Seeing this newcomer, Aria started sweating. Did she trigger a butterfly effect? Ryan's gift had her totally confused. He didn't even know who he was serving, yet he dropped a massive gem on the first visit. That is way too extra. Watching them get cozy, Aria felt the frustration rising. Is Mielle really that magnetic? The ripples caused by the hourglass seemed unavoidable now. It was showtime for Mielle's birthday. She was rocking the dress Oscar gave her. Aria, however, had a gown in the exact same style. Playing the dutiful daughter, Aria greeted her dad. This caught Ryan's eye. He dropped a compliment, calling her gorgeous. Then he immediately pivoted back to chat up Mielle. Aria felt a little stung. That was the first time her looks failed to hold a room, but she quickly realized this guy was just a clout chaser, sucking up to the air. She turned to leave, but her father called her back, pulling out an exquisite jewelry box. That used to be a Mielle-exclusive perk. Her hard work was finally paying dividends. Time to humble her little sister. Aria did a quick outfit change and stepped into the spotlight. Sensing the bad vibes, Mielle got nervous, then realized the disaster. Aria was wearing the exact same style of dress. Mielle's expression went dark. The guests immediately started whispering. Mielle, who had just been flexing, her outfit was now totally humiliated. It was obvious the crowd was rejecting those old rumors about Aria's bad behavior. Standing side by side, Aria outclassed her in looks, vibe, and elegance. It made everyone question if the gossip was ever true. Just as Aria was soaking up the W, someone summoned Mielle. It was her brother Kane. False alarm. But wait, Oscar was standing right next to him. Aria was shook. In her original timeline, Oscar never showed up for Mielle's birthday. So why did he ghost her letter? Did she break the script and cause this? And what was up with Kane? He was staring her down. Even Oscar's face was turning beet red. Aria clocked it immediately. They were both crushing on her. Oscar showed up because the guilt of liking his fiancé's sister was eating him alive. Aria moved fast to snap them out of it. She played the victim, feigning heartbreak and saying she shouldn't interfere. Then she dashed upstairs. The bait was taken. Ignoring Mielle's death glare, Oscar chased after her. Aria waited in her room, letting the tea steep 3 times over. Patience is key. Finally, Oscar walked in. Seeing his flushed face, Aria felt a rush of pure, indescribable power. She knew with just one little nudge, his heart was hers. The guy didn't stand a chance. Even though his mind was supposed to be elsewhere, Oscar couldn't stop obsessing over Aria, seizing this rare chance. They started vibing. Aria played the sympathy card perfectly, confessing she had 0 friends and was terrified of crowds. Oscar swallowed the bait whole, immediately throwing shade at Mielle, basically implying it was her fault he couldn't get close to Aria before. Even though they were just pen pals and he planned to dip early, Aria worked her magic and convinced him to stay for dinner. Aria clocked Oscar's nervousness instantly, so she dropped the "we're just friends" line to keep him hooked. I mean, what's the harm in a little chat between besties? Dinner rolled around and surprise, rain crashed the party. This immediately triggered Aria's radar. It looked like he was scouting for his boss, so Aria started profiling him like a detective while plotting her next move. Oscar locked eyes with her. Seeing Aria excluded from the conversation triggered his savior complex all over again. Kane was lurking in the background watching everything. Meanwhile, Mielle was busy flexing a gift from Oscar, desperate for a reaction, but Oscar was too busy zoning out and staring at Aria. Mielle caught the disrespect instantly. So she whipped out a handkerchief she supposedly stitched herself and handed it to her dad. Aria watched this innocent act with a smirk. She knew it was a setup, but played along with fake praise. But then Mielle decided to go full mean girl. She ordered Emma to hand out gifts to literally everyone at the table except Aria. Total power move. Rain felt the secondhand embarrassment and tried to offer his own handkerchief, but Aria just smiled like an unbothered queen. She diffused the tension effortlessly. Mielle's petty scheme flopped yet again. A few days later, needing dirt on the handkerchiefs, Aria summoned Annie for a spa day. Under the guise of prepping her for a party, she casually brought up Mielle's sewing skills. Just as planned, Annie spilled the tea about Mielle's tutor. Aria put the pieces together. Mielle didn't sew a thing. She just added the final stitch to steal the credit. Fraud alert. Aria knew it was time to flip an asset. She slid an exclusive golden pin to Annie as a little thank you. From that moment on, Mielle's loyal inner circle started shrinking one by one. Turns out Rain's mysterious master was down bad for a noble lady constantly sending gifts to the mansion to get noticed. But Mielle was deep in her feelings. Her heart belonged to someone else, and her mom was stressing out about it. So she grilled Rain about his master again, but he kept his mouth shut, only hinting that his boss met the lady by chance and caught feelings. Aria was listening in, ready to use her hourglass cheat code to dig into Rain's background, so she started deducing. She figured Rain's boss had to be a foreign big shot, or maybe even the crown prince himself. Rain was visibly shook that she connected the dots so fast. He didn't expect Aria to be this sharp, but even under pressure, he didn't leak any intel. Aria acted indifferent, but inside she was sweating bullets. If this mystery VIP was just some clueless noble, fine. But if he became Mielle's financial backer, that would be a massive problem for her revenge plans. Rain caught her side-eye and realized she knew more than she let on. The next morning, Aria woke up, totally groggy. Jessie saw her puffy eyes and rushed to fix them with cold water. It was showtime, Aria's first social event as an adult. Annie popped up behind her, clearly having spent hours getting ready to tag along. She tried to act cool while asking about Aria's plans, but she was practically vibrating with excitement. At the tea party, the other ladies immediately clocked the maids standing behind Aria. Aria hyped Annie up naturally, and once the vibe was right, she steered the conversation. She brought up the coming-of-age ceremony, and the ladies lost their minds with excitement. They were dying to spill the gossip about Lady Sarah. Just then, Sarah arrived late, clutching a bouquet. Turns out a messenger from the Marquess held her up. The ladies immediately swarmed her. Begging for details on her ceremony, Sarah shyly explained the whole dropped handkerchief cliché. The Count picked it up, inspected it like a treasure, and asked to keep it. Sarah totally folded and gave it to him. Then she agreed to dance. She was shocked that the usually stoic Count had such a romantic side. Aria listened without flinching. She already read the spoilers. She knew Sarah and the Count were endgame. She shifted the topic, encouraging Sarah to ignore status and politics, and to just be with him for love. After all, she genuinely wanted Sarah to catch a break. Sarah looked ready to cry tears of joy. Everyone was vibing with the romance, except Annie, who looked like her brain just short-circuited at the thought. A commoner snagging a noble title. That's the ultimate glow-up. Actually, if Annie played her cards right, she could secure that bag too. And she knew damn well Aria was the only one who could make that happen. That's exactly why Annie crashed this little meeting. So what was the game plan? Aria went into full mentor mode, teaching Sarah the art of manipulation, love. Sarah was a total baddie, chased by tons of guys, but she was eating up every scene Aria described, blushing like a schoolgirl. To lock down the Marquis instantly, Aria dropped a pro tip: send him a pair of gloves. That move would live rent-free in his head. Sarah hyped up Aria's genius, having no clue these tactics came from Aria's dark past. of twisting men around her finger. Just as Sarah was about to bounce, she spotted a shiny new carriage rolling up to the gate. Zoom in and it's Lane. He stepped out, looking all polite, asking to see Mielle, hoping to sip some tea and chat up the golden child. Aria shut that down immediately, claiming it was improper for Lane to hang out with a single lady without a guardian. But let's be real, she just couldn't stand the thought of Lane giving Mielle more attention. She wasn't about to let those two have a private moment. Sarah noticed. Aria's vibe got dark, and her protective instincts kicked in. She quickly suggested a group hangout to diffuse the tension. Lane silently agreed, and handed over a gift meant for Aria. Tulips again. Aria gave him a sly smirk. Judging by that specific flower color, she instantly clocked that Lane's boss had to be imperial nobility. Lane looked shook. She wasn't supposed to know that. The trio sat down for the most awkward tea party ever. Aria's mind was racing. Is his master actually the crown prince? She signaled Annie to fetch the hourglass. Then she started grilling Lane, trying to figure out why he kept showing up at the mansion like a stalker. Turns out his boss valued Mielle's intel. The Count's fur business blew up because of her advice. Aria's eyes went wide with rage. That was my idea, so her dad never actually changed. He really gave all the credit to his blood daughter Aria, was literally shaking. Lane kept talking, hinting that Mielle wasn't as sharp as the rumors said. Aria let out a cold laugh at Mielle's expense. Then she snapped, emotions exploding in front of everyone. Sarah looked absolutely terrified. Aria realized she'd lost her cool and quickly flipped the hourglass to scrub the timeline clean. She forced herself to breathe. Keep it together, girl. After the long wait, Mielle finally made her entrance. After a quick hello, Lane immediately tested her with a question about the casino. Aria knew it was a trap, but she didn't expect Mielle to be that clueless. When Mielle suggested building a statue of the crown prince at the entrance, Aria couldn't hold it back. She burst out laughing. Lane looked super uncomfortable. He turned to Aria, asking for her take on the situation. And oh, did she deliver? Aria dropped facts with perfect clarity, while subtly roasting Mielle for being an idiot. Lane was floored by her intelligence. Mielle stood there pale-faced, totally humiliated. Then the conversation shifted to business, with the Count who asked for Mielle's opinion again. The Count's biological daughter, actually. Thought lightweight clothes would be the trend for the next season. Aria laughed so hard she was trembling. That idea was a joke, trying to save the awkward atmosphere. The father turned to Aria, begging with his eyes for his smart adopted daughter to fix this mess. But this time, Aria gate-kept her brilliance. She agreed with Mielle's trash suggestion. No way was she letting them profit off her brain for free. Lane and the Count looked disappointed that Aria didn't take the bait. Aria decided she'd rather focus on reading and leveling up herself than letting them exploit her labor. Just then, Annie walked in asking for time off to hit the festival. Aria said yes without hesitation. Fast forward to festival day. Seeing Annie's plain outfit, Aria felt bad. She grabbed some luxury clothes and tossed them to her. Let the other maids die of envy. Annie got dressed and left beaming. Just as Aria settled in to read, she felt Jessie lurking behind her. Turns out Jessie wanted to go too, but was too shy to ask because of the workload. Aria didn't even look up before saying yes. Jessie looked worried, then had a light bulb moment. Miss Aria, come with us. The three of them hit the streets. Memories of her past life flooded back. The fear was there, but Aria reminded herself this time is different. She bought a couple of meat skewers to share with the squad. They sat by the fountain, vibing to the street music. Winter faded and spring rolled in. It was officially plotting season. Her revenge checklist was fully ticked off, but would watching her enemies burn actually bring her joy? While Aria spiraled into an existential crisis, Asher spotted her silhouette and immediately cut through the crowd to reach her. He hit her with a polite greeting, totally unprepared for the icy death glare. Aria shot back. She just wanted to ghost him right there. But the man's charisma was magnetic, literally undeniable. Against her better judgment, Aria found herself locked into the conversation. Just then, Jessie and the servant clocked the situation, their hands inching toward their weapons ready to throw down. Asher's subordinate materialized out of nowhere, whispering urgent intel, but Asher waved him off. His focus, entirely on Aria. He seized the moment to ask about her unusually plain outfit, but the subtext screamed something else entirely. Basically asking, why aren't you wearing the drip I sent you? Little did he know he'd mailed those gifts to the wrong girl from day one. Aria pegged him as a total weirdo and looked for the nearest exit to bail. Boom, a massive explosion rocked the area nearby. On instinct, Asher snatched Aria's hand and sprinted. They tore through the crowd, going against the current. But wait, it wasn't just the running making her heart race like crazy. She'd never felt a pulse spike like this before. Asher gripped her hand tighter, dragging her away from the hysteria surrounded by the blinding glow of flames and terrified screams. Aria focused on the warmth of his palm. For a second, she thought that hand was her lifeline tethering them together. They ran until their lungs burned. Then reality hit. Aria violently yanked her hand back. A wave of awkwardness washed over her. Why was she losing her cool every time panic set in lately? Seeing that guy as her savior, absolute clown behavior. Asher, looking slightly rattled, asked if she was okay. He offered a handkerchief he'd snagged at the festival, asking if she needed to wipe the grime off her face. Aria swatted the offer away. Is he trying to make me look stupid? She snapped out of it and realized they were miles from where they started. Where the hell are we? She demanded. Asher flashed a carefree grin and admitted he just ran on instinct. Dude had zero clue where they were. He just pressed the handkerchief into her hand anyway. Aria was fuming. Losing control like this, it felt like a massive L on her part. Why did she even give this guy the time of day? She scanned the chaotic surroundings only to realize that no matter where she looked, it was uncharted territory. Panic set in. They'd literally sprinted all the way to the city outskirts. She needed to bail fast before the sound of her own footsteps drove her insane. She turned to leave, but Asher called out, "Where are you going?" She admitted she wanted to head back, but was completely turned around. Asher pointed towards the horizon, suggesting they head toward the glow, lighting up the night sky. Aria paused, swallowed her pride, and fell in step beside him. That's when Asher dropped the flirtatious bomb. Need a lift. She literally shrieked. Excuse me. She was dead on her feet, but no way was she owing him a favor. Despite being totally drained, she kicked off her heels and stomped forward barefoot. Asher watched her go, a smirk playing on his lips, thinking, yeah, seeing that fire is definitely better than carrying her. Aria was salty, but Asher trailed right behind her. He teased that he might actually be useful to her. Aria scoffed, shutting him down immediately, claiming there was zero chance of him making a good impression now. Asher countered, "You don't know me yet," but Aria just rolled her eyes. Men, they're all the same trash. Asher cut her off immediately, claiming he knew the real Miss Aria inside out. Aria figured he'd just been binging on the nasty rumors, but Asher dropped a truth bomb that hit different. Aria flinched, spinning around to glare daggers at him, only to find him staring back with eyes full of pure tenderness. Aria's heart instantly went into overdrive. She felt trapped in his gaze, unable to look away from those mysterious ocean blue eyes that felt like a dream. Seizing the moment while she was dazed, Asher leaned in close and whispered, "You'll find out who I am soon enough." He promised with total confidence that their paths would cross again. Before she could react, the guards found her asking if she was okay, and dropped the news that the festival was wrapping up. Aria felt like the last few minutes were a total hallucination, but the adrenaline told her it wasn't a dream. She headed back with the guards, who started debriefing the explosion's cause. They were arguing about the details, but Aria tuned them out, her mind fixated on that mystery man, guessing he was some random country noble. But the more she dwelt on it, the angrier she got. Suddenly, her maid interrupted the spiral with some fresh tea on Miss Mielle. Word on the street was Mielle sent a letter to Miss Frederick. Now pause. Miss Frederick's backstory is straight up tragic. Her husband took his own life when the crushing weight of massive debt became too much to handle. With zero options left, she had to serve the nobility just to pay the bills. But the debt didn't shrink, and the exhaustion cost her the baby she was carrying. Finally, a noble spotted this unlucky woman, and because she looked familiar, he upgraded her to his personal maid. Talk about a lucky break. But then the noble's wife died from blood loss during childbirth, so this woman stepped up to raise the newborn girl. That girl grew up into a sweet, charming young lady who went to visit Miss Frederick, receiving a super warm welcome. The girl was dying to see Oscar, her fiancé, but Miss Frederick had other plans, wanting some one-on-one time, so she told Oscar to bounce and come back later. The girl flashed a perfect sugary smile. Miss Frederick hyped her up, saying that even though Oscar usually does whatever she says, she wouldn't want his partner to be a drag on him. Then she praised the girl as the ultimate wife material. But the girl dropped the act for a second, looking sad and complaining about how hard it was to get FaceTime with Oscar. Feeling guilty for not being powerful enough to help her husband, Miss Frederick went into comfort mode, telling her not to stress. The engagement with Oscar was a lock, and she was rooting for it too. The girl's smile returned, this time with barely contained glee. Getting Miss Frederick's stamp of approval was a major power move, considering she was the top contender to marry the crown prince. Marrying into that family meant total immunity. Nobody would dare mess with her. Shortly after Oscar returned, Oscar looked at Miss Frederick with a mix of shock and guilt. The girl immediately rushed to his side, fawning over him, but Oscar looked straight up annoyed by the clinginess. Miss Frederick murmured from the sidelines, insisting they were destined to spend their lives together. Oscar clapped back weakly, reminding them he wasn't engaged yet. Miss Frederick laughed it off, teasing that just because the girl was underage didn't mean Oscar had to be so stiff. The girl was internally screaming with joy, visualizing her bougie future life. She'd be untouchable. Her reputation would be spotless. Give it a few years, and joining this family would just be the natural order of things. Miss Frederick and Oscar left later. On the ride home, Frederick kept pressuring Oscar to get closer to the girl. Even if Frederick married the crown prince, they needed alliances with other powerful nobles. Oscar was still hesitant, Sensing his resistance, Frederick dropped the nuke, the rumor that Oscar was cozying up to a prostitute's daughter. Oscar froze, completely stunned. Miss Frederick realized she hit a nerve. She shot him a look, completely void of mercy, and roasted him with sarcasm. Oscar tried to explain, but she shut him down, commanding him to obey and insinuating his days of making his own choices were over. Oscar felt totally gaslit. Aria wasn't who the rumors painted her to be. A few days later, Aria got a letter from Oscar. The maids were gushing over how thoughtful he was. Aria played it cool, but inside she was doing a victory dance. But as the maids kept hyping it up, Aria's face dropped. The letter was a breakup text in paper form. Oscar said they couldn't talk anymore. She completely shattered. The maids scrambled around her like panicked ants. Aria kept repeating Oscar's name over and over, letting the resentment boil in her veins. Moments later, a maid bursts into the room, gasping for air. She's got a bombshell to drop. Mielle received a letter too. But this wasn't just any letter. Unlike Aria's dry note, Mielle's was dripping with Oscar's romantic poetry. No way, Oscar wrote that mushy stuff. It had Isis Frederick's manipulative handwriting all over it, metaphorically speaking. Aria finally gets the full picture. She thought clinging to Oscar was her golden ticket out of this mess. But she totally overlooked the real boss fight, Isis. Even if Mielle secures that engagement, it's entirely because Isis allows it. Oscar can keep writing love letters, but he's powerless to change the endgame. Aria collapses, sobbing into the floorboards. Then a glimmer catches her eye, Mielle's flashy hair ornament sitting on the table. Pure envy twists Aria's face. She's burning with hatred while Mielle is out there giggling with guests like a perfect little angel. Aria is seeing red. She literally wants to wring Mielle's neck and bolt. Meanwhile, some guest is boring Mielle with talk about tax codes. Mielle, being naive, thinks dropping names and batting her eyelashes will fix it. Aria scoffs from the sidelines. Without Mr. Ryan, you're toast, she thinks. Then Aria steps in with a genius play: build a warehouse right near the Capitol. That way you stockpile goods there when necessary. And boom, massive tax write-offs. Mr. Ryan is absolutely shook. He instantly realizes this girl knows her stuff. Mielle starts panicking, trying to shut it down with weak excuses. But Aria counters every single point, like a pro debater. Then Mielle gasps about the skyrocketing fur tax. A guard chimes in, hyping Aria up. She predicted the fur trend way before it blew up. That's why the taxes hit. Mr. Ryan can't believe his ears. He quickly smooths things over, celebrating that they actually found a loophole. But back in reality, Aria is spiraling. Knowing the future is useless if the game is rigged against you. Sure, she's smarter now, but the system is still broken. Nothing has actually changed. She flops onto her bed, completely defeated. Even if she begs Oscar to keep writing her, it's pointless. Outsmarting Mielle today doesn't stop the executioner tomorrow. The terror of the blade keeps her awake all night, staring at the ceiling, paralyzed by fear. She's stuck in a nightmare. Meanwhile, Mielle is all glammed up, ready to visit her future sister-in-law. Following Daddy's strict orders, Mielle hops in the carriage and rolls out. Anne watches from the shadows, smirking. She rushes to spill the tea to Aria, but gets a shock. Aria couldn't care less. Aria looks like a zombie after crying all night over Oscar. She barely mumbles a question about Mielle's fit. Annie confirms Isis Frederick sent the whole look. Aria sighs. It's Isis's birthday bash, and the whole social hierarchy is there. This party cements Isis's power, while Aria is destined to lose again. It feels completely hopeless. Aria makes up an excuse and passes out. Annie and Jesse exchange worried glances. Something is seriously wrong with their lady. Cut to the party. Mielle is thriving, seated right next to Isis, like the VIP she thinks she is. Countless noble girls swarm Isis. Mielle sees an opening to clout chase. She name-drops her father and steers the spotlight onto herself. They chat like besties until Oscar makes his grand entrance. He's polite and looking so good, Mielle practically drools. After a quick, hello Mielle, convinces herself she's winning his heart back. Isis plays matchmaker, pushing them together. Even though the engagement is a done deal, Mielle acts all shy and blushing. Suddenly, the butler rushes in. Panic mode. The crown prince just crashed the party. The room freezes. Everyone snaps into royal protocol, assuming the prince is here to seal the deal. With Isis, Mielle, clueless as ever, thinks he's just here to say happy birthday. Only Oscar senses the danger. Isis has been antagonizing the royals all day, so the prince showing up, not good. Isis looks flustered and low-key furious. She has no clue what his game is, but forces a respectful curtsy for the crowd. Plot twist. Asher totally ignores her. He blows past the pleasantries and locks eyes on Mielle. Standing right there, he's been mixing up the sisters this whole time, now staring at the real Mielle. He realizes she's way shorter than the girl in his memories. Mielle is freezing up, totally lost. Isis is spiraling. The prince crashed her party to stare at Mielle. Is there some secret romance she doesn't know about? Just as Asher dropped the bombshell of his true identity, waiting for the applause, Mielle tilted her head, totally clueless. Asher's eyes went wide. The girl standing there, not the mystery woman haunting his dreams. His gut hit the floor. Where on earth was the girl he actually loved? The second the crown prince bailed Mielle's legs, gave out like jelly. Thank God Oscar was there to catch her. Isis immediately swarmed in grilling Mielle about what went down with his highness. Mielle played the innocence card. She had no clue, claimed it was her first time meeting the guy, and had zero idea what he meant by the real lady. Watching Mielle gasping for air, Isis put on a masterclass in fake sympathy, acting heartbroken for the poor girl. She ordered Oscar to take Mielle somewhere quiet. But the moment Mielle was out of earshot, Isis's mask slipped. She muttered about kids being a total headache. Then again, the gears started turning. This was a golden opportunity. Oscar had a hero complex for helpless cases. If she could weaponize this drama to push Oscar toward Mielle, that's a win-win. With Mielle handled, Isis switched into full damage control mode to fix the awkward vibe the prince left behind. She worked the room, flashing smiles and cracking jokes. The guests ate it up, whispering that she really was the perfect future crown princess. A total class act. Behind the scenes, though, Isis sent her spies to dig up the dirt on Mielle and the prince. Her gut was screaming danger. This situation was spiraling. Meanwhile, Aria was busy stress-eating gourmet desserts, trying to hype herself up. That evening, she spotted Oscar carrying Mielle back home. Mielle's dad wasn't having it, blaming Oscar for the late return. Oscar explained there was a little drama. At the party, Mielle passed out, and he didn't have the heart to wake her up. The count let it slide, but gave Oscar a stern warning about keeping his distance. Oscar tried to dip, but the count insisted he stay the night. Talk about awkward. Aria didn't expect the cold shoulder. Oscar wouldn't even look at her. She thought she was over it, but seeing him made her chest ache all over again. Deep in the night, insomnia hit hard, so she wandered out for some air. She didn't expect to run straight into Oscar. She was about to say hi, but he turned his back and vanished into his room. Aria couldn't let him go. She triggered the hourglass. Time froze. She grabbed him, tears streaming down her face. She begged him not to leave her behind, burying her face in his chest, sobbing out a confession. But Oscar stood there like a statue. No hug back. Nothing. Next morning, Aria woke up with a massive cringe hangover. She couldn't believe she spilled her guts and clung to him like that. Oscar, though, he actually felt bad for her. She was totally isolated. In this massive mansion, with zero allies, he only whispered his truth after she'd fallen asleep last night. He prayed she wouldn't worry. Every move he made was for her. If he married Mielle, they'd be family by law, and Mielle couldn't bully Aria anymore. He hoped one day, Aria would understand his twisted logic. But right now, Aria was just drowning in regret. She felt humiliated for clinging to him, but then tea started spilling. Mielle had called her squad over to humblebrag. Aria's maid rushed in, buzzing with gossip. Apparently the day Mielle came back with Oscar, her eyes were puffy, because the prince had actually grilled her. Plus, word on the street, from an ex-servant, was that those gifts Mielle got prepared by Isis's maid, not Oscar. That changed everything. Oscar hadn't done anything. Isis pulled the strings. Knowing the truth, Aria instantly recharged. She strutted out radiant and ran smack into Mielle and her minions. Mielle pulled a fake smile, saying, "Long time no see," adding that if Aria felt sick, she should really stay hidden in her room. Aria ignored the shade. She breezily said she just needed air, and was in the mood for a shopping spree. Then Aria smirked, mentioning she didn't know why, but she'd suddenly hit a growth spurt. She looked down at Mielle. Some people just never grow out of that child-sized body, huh? That growth speed was honestly unfair. Mielle kept a poker face, but internally she was screaming. On the walk, Aria pondered the side effects. The hourglass made her sleepy, sure, but why did she physically age every time she used it? A chilling realization hit her. Reversing time might be trading away her own life force. So Aria decided to pump the brakes on using the hourglass for a bit. She went on a shopping spree, but she wasn't just spoiling herself. She treated her squad, the two maids, flanking her to a whole new wardrobe. Next stop, the ultra-exclusive Hanayama Cafe. Anne, one of the maids, was practically vibrating, saying she'd always dreamed of this place. But usually they gatekeep it for the nobility. Once seated, Aria sent Jessie on a mission to grab a newspaper. She needed to check the status of that paperboy she'd saved earlier. And boom, the headline delivered: mastermind behind noble heists identified as high-ranking foreign aristocrat. Gears started turning in Aria's head. This wasn't just news, it was leverage. She realized she could weaponize this info. Gripping the hourglass, she prepared to hit the casino and secure the bag. But before she could move, she spotted a guy downstairs locking eyes with her, holding flowers. Aria was shook because that wasn't just some random dude. It was Asher, the guy who saved her that one time. They weren't exactly close, but he was acting way too comfortable. Her maid leaned in, whispering that Asher had been standing down there for ages, glued to the spot, staring right at them. All right, bet. Aria decided to confront this mystery man and figure out what his actual game was. What did Asher actually want? But he started playing it cool, talking in riddles about how they just bumped into each other. while handing over a bouquet of tulips with a charming smile. Aria wasn't having it. She went straight for the jugular, telling him she'd seen these tulips before. These were a royal breed cultivated specifically by the crown, meaning they were only sold near the palace. And looking around, the palace was nowhere near here. This coincidence was looking pretty calculated, but Asher didn't even flinch at her roast. He just kept smiling and said, "I spotted Miss Aria on the way, grabbed a bouquet, and followed. I didn't think Miss Aria would remember the flowers I sent last time." Aria froze. Wait a minute, the last guy to send flowers was Ian. What did that have to do with Asher? And why was he taking her attitude so well? Was he just obsessed with her looks or something? Then Asher pulled a total 180, dropping a bomb that he was interested in the fur business advisor position held by Ross. Aria's blood ran cold. Ross would never leak that intel. Was it Ryan? Did that loudmouth spill the beans? To everyone. But Asher switched gears again, saying that since he heard Aria was a genius, he wanted to invite her to a meeting. We're talking high-level politics and economics. Aria hesitated. This felt off. They weren't friends, and he was inviting her to a heavy discussion out of nowhere. Plus, it would be a total sausage fest. Aria looked him in the eye and asked if he wasn't worried about dragging her reputation through the mud. Asher waved it off, insisting the meeting was strictly academic. He was eager to see her flex her knowledge. Even though it was mostly men, there wouldn't be any trashy rumors, because uneducated people weren't qualified to step foot in the room. Okay, now he had her attention. In this patriarchal society, a woman getting a seat at that table was a golden ticket. But could she trust this guy? Aria headed home mind, racing only to find Ryan waiting for her again. Playing the gentleman, he gave Mielle some lilies, leaving Aria speechless. But then Ryan handed Aria a bouquet of tulips, telling her they were fresh from his master's garden. Aria stared at the familiar petals, totally in shock. Throughout dinner, Aria couldn't stop dissecting Ryan's words. Why emphasize the master's garden? Suddenly, her father, the Count, interrupted her train of thought, declaring that she and Ryan would make a great couple. Aria nearly choked. Ryan, the guy with the wandering eye who was thirsting over Mielle 5 minutes ago, the guy who is literally a servant. She knew her dad was sketchy, but selling her out like this for connections, that was a new low. Then Mielle decided to pour gas on the fire, chirping that Aria and Ryan were a perfect match. Aria fired back instantly. Actually, I think he suits you better. Mielle played the victim card. Sister, did you forget? I already have Oscar. Aria didn't let up. Oscar, the guy who's been MIA for months. The one who sends his maid to deliver your gifts, watching his daughters go to war. The Count realized the vibe was ruined and quickly backpedaled, saying it looked like Aria wasn't ready to tie the knot just yet. Dinner ended in awkward silence. After Ryan left, Aria was about to crash when Ryan sneaked back in. He handed her a letter, saying his master insisted she read it. Aria tore it open. It was from Asher. Ryan looked at her and asked, "So, can you accept my master?" And then it hit her. The reality check Aria didn't see coming. The guy catching feelings wasn't Ryan, it was his boss Asher. But the math wasn't mathing. If Asher was the secret admirer, why did he shower Mielle with all that luxury loot back in the day? Ryan flashed a cringe smile, blaming it on a clerical error. Total mix-up, he claimed, practically begging Aria not to hold a grudge. Mystery solved, but the choice just got way harder. First off, Asher is a total stranger, a ghost. And secondly, why would he want her? In her own head, she's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed. Ryan looked absolutely shook at her lack of confidence, completely failing to grasp her insecurity. From where he stood, Lady Aria was playing 4D chess, while everyone else was playing checkers. It's just the hourglass, Aria whispered to herself. It felt like cheating, but she swallowed her doubt and agreed to the meetup. The noble squad circled up, dying to know Aria's secret sauce for romance. She'd effortlessly played Cupid for Sarah and the Marquis. Her excuse, just some street smarts from my commoner days, ladies. But deep down, she knew those two were endgame anyway. Suddenly, a wave of confusion crashed over her. Since when did she become so fragile? The hourglass was supposed to delete the loser label from her past life. When did her iron heart start to crack? While she spiraled, the maids were busy bickering over her fit for the big meeting. Aria cut through the noise with a curveball. "You guys are coming with me as my entourage." Annie was vibrating with excitement. Meanwhile, Aria made a power move to hire fresh staff. Right on cue, Mielle sent over Barry, a total spy. Aria played along and took the bait. Memories of Barry's snake behavior in the past timeline made Aria's blood boil. Time for some petty payback. She put Barry on an endless tea loop, nitpicking everything. Too hot, too cold, you spilled it, too full. She ran Barry ragged and told Annie, "Train this girl properly." Aria pulled up to Asher's meeting right on the dot. Just as expected, the room was packed with high society faces. After the polite intros, Aria dropped the formalities. "Just call me Aria." Then they got down to business, discussing the gritty details of running the casino. Asher spoke like a regular dude, yet everyone treated him like royalty. Aria couldn't stop guessing his true identity. Suddenly, someone pitched a wild idea. The casino has too many rules. It's a nightmare to manage and barely fun anymore. We should just shut it down. The radical nobles pushed back hard. Are you kidding? The tax revenue is a literal gold mine. Secondly, foreign nations were eyeing that cash cow, and the crown prince ran it personally. That casino was the prince's ace for winning over the nobility, closing it cold turkey. That would backfire instantly. Illegal gambling dens would pop up everywhere, and the wealth gap would explode. Ryan suggested capping the betting amounts. Good theory, but there was a catch. Expecting nobles to honestly report their assets is a joke. The debate turned into a shouting match. Aria, who had been chilling in silence, finally spoke up. The casino's collapse is inevitable. It's a trend. The best move. Toss that hot potato to the nobles. The room erupted in protest, screaming that it would wreck the crown prince's rep and everyone would blame his highness for the failure. Aria blinked. Weren't these guys usually against the prince? She broke it down for them. Sure, short-term cash looks good, but look at the long game. It hurts the national economy. Funds leak. Resources waste. Don't hesitate, dump the casino on someone else right now. The public won't see failure. They'll praise his highness for his wisdom and decisiveness. Here's the kicker. The noble faction are parasites feeding on the royals. Hand them the shiny toy they want so bad. On the surface, it looks like the royal family is bowing to them, but it's actually a poison pill to weaken them. Isn't that perfect? The room was floored by her IQ, but the radicals still pressed. How are you so sure it'll tank? Asher stood up abruptly. We're doing it her way. Boom. Meeting. Adjourned. He pulled her aside to vibe check, but Aria cut the fluff. Stop playing games, Mr. Asher. Who are you really? The less she knew, the more intrigued she became. Asher caught on to that energy, so he decided to keep the mask on, but his tone shifted. He realized he was thirsting too hard to know her. Terrified of coming on too strong, Aria stood there, totally speechless. It wasn't just her face he was into. Asher smirked internally. This girl had vision. Unique perspectives on current trends. Turns out the entire guest list was stacked with exactly that kind of crowd. This guy is basically a headhunter for geniuses. Aria couldn't help herself. She kept pressing for the truth about Asher's identity. Looking at Aria's stunning face, Asher knew the deal dropping his cover now wouldn't help her one bit, so he bowed low, buying time. He framed himself as just a mysterious fanboy right now, totally captivated by Aria's intellect. That smooth line hit the mark. Aria blushed instantly. She couldn't even look him in the eye. Those clear, gentle, azure eyes were too much to hide her flustered state. Aria whipped her head away. Her gut instinct screamed that this guy wasn't a threat. Even though she planned to get to the bottom of this, she couldn't break through Asher's elegant deflection. Whatever. At this point, it didn't matter. Aria spun around and headed up the stairs. So what's your read on me? Miss Asher asked. Aria decided to drop her theory. She figured Asher had to be the crown prince. But why would a guy engaged to the imperial princess be lurking around here? Before Aria could finish her thought, Asher stepped up from behind, ready to drop a compliment. Aria slammed her hat over her face to block him, and gave her verdict. Asher was just some random noble she didn't know. Asher looked visibly relieved. He invited her back to the next gathering. Aria said she'd think about it, but her mind was already made up. Back at the mansion, Mielle hauled in a massive pot of tulips, deciding Ryan had sent them for Aria. Mielle and her dad immediately jumped to conclusions. Ryan must be into Aria. They even dragged Mom into the drama. Aria shut that down fast, pivoting the conversation straight to the warehouse business. Seeing Mielle's shameless face, Aria knew she couldn't waste a second. She had to carve her own path. Days later, she hit the casino with Annie dressed to kill. Aria ordered a wine, scouting the floor from the second-level balcony. Time to test her luck. Thanks to the hourglass, she went on a multi-day winning streak. The crowd started getting twitchy. While people hyped her up, she was spamming that hourglass rewind over and over. But honestly, she was totally drained. Her win streak triggered major envy, so she started dipping immediately after every win. But today, they chased her. A mob of gamblers desperate to steal her secret sauce. Crunch time. She and Annie split up to shake them. The footsteps were getting louder, closing in on Aria. Just as she was about to get nabbed, a guy in a golden lion mask appeared out of nowhere. He pulled her into a VIP room. Aria's radar went off. That voice, it sounded way too familiar. Asher, realizing his cover was about to blow, immediately spun around to de-escalate the vibe. The mob thundered past the door. Aria didn't dare breathe. She tried to slip out, but Asher blocked her path. Too risky out there. He kept her on lockdown. Asher cracked the door, ordering servants to clear out the gamblers, all while acting like he couldn't care less, casually asking Aria for her betting secrets. His polite attitude chilled her out. She sensed lion mask. Wasn't malicious, just a curious bystander. He didn't give off creeper vibes. Aria lied with a straight face, claiming it was pure skill. And hey, luck is a skill, right? Asher was stunned. Suddenly, a knock at the door. Looks like the gamblers were evicted successfully. Asher was speechless. Who told you to work that fast? The servant replied. Your Grace. No excuse to keep her now. Asher politely escorted her out. Mask off. It was time to talk strategy. With his servant. He'd set a trap earlier, whining about how stressful running the casino was, hoping Vigay would bite and offer to buy the place. Didn't expect him to take the bait that fast. Asher planned to let the nobles go wild gambling, then shut the whole operation down. By then, the casino wouldn't be the crown prince's problem. Watching the nobles tear each other apart would be pure entertainment. Exploiting human greed for property, the crown prince decided to use this mess to clean house. The only snag. When this blows up, that fiscal nightmare with the customs warehouse the Rossant family is using will be tough to fix. Current laws can't stop it, and nobody knows which no-name family even suggested that loophole. With Vika throwing subtle shade right in his face, Asher wasn't about to let that slide. He kept his cool, but booted the guy out immediately. Left alone with his spiraling thoughts, Aria's face flashed through his mind again. Meanwhile, across town, Aria was back at the mansion, scrubbing off her disguise. She'd secured the bag, so the casino life canceled. No reason to go back. Time for phase 2. She signaled Annie to drag her brother in to start the next operation. Enter Andro. The guy looked totally lost, dragged here by his sister, just because Aria snapped her fingers. He was bewildered because his mission sounded insane by Sugar. All of it. Every last grain. Aria wasn't just shopping. She was cornering the market. Sugar was liquid gold to the aristocracy. Controlling that flow meant infinite stacks of cash. Later, Aria hit up a high society tea party where the gossip mill was spinning out of control about recent drama. Aria scanned the room. These landless nobodies couldn't run a business to save their lives. Their only survival skill was sucking up to the count. She tried to pinpoint who was launching these trade monopolies with the noble faction's backing. She had a list of suspects. But wait, the noble faction targeting her impossible. Process of elimination left only one player, the Crown Prince's squad. But would they really target her specifically? That didn't add up. Did they bring in foreign mercenaries? The mere thought gave her a migraine. Once you get tangled in that web, there's no easy way out. The more Aria analyzed the board, the deeper she spiraled into the abyss of overthinking. She zoned out so hard she didn't even hear Sarah calling her name until bam, jump scare. Sarah saw Aria's stressed face and panicked. Assuming Aria was stressing over her father, Sarah grabbed her hands going full emotional support mode. Seeing that puppy dog sincerity, Aria played the role of the sad victim perfectly. Truth is, even if the Ross family crashed and burned, their generational wealth would last 3 lifetimes. Then Sarah dropped some tea of her own. The Marquis had officially caught feelings and confessed to her. He wanted to treat Aria to a fancy dinner as a thank you gift for playing matchmaker. Aria's investment finally paid off big time. She was internally screaming with joy. Time skipped to Aria's secret rendezvous with Asher, as expected. The topic was lost customers. But the vibe was weird. These guys actually seemed hyped that the noble faction was taking the L. Aria was totally thrown off. Aren't half of you nobles? Are you guys gluttons for punishment? Just as she took a sip of water to process the absurdity, Ryan dropped the nuke. Viscount Vigay bought the Crown Prince's casino. Aria nearly did a spit take. The whole room turned to stare at her. Asher locked eyes with her, cool as ice. Why are you so convinced the prince wouldn't sell? Flashback. In her past life, the prince shut the place down due to mismanagement and got absolutely roasted by the public. Obviously, she couldn't drop spoilers from the future without looking crazy. She stammered out a lame excuse. Asher pressed on. Hypothetically, if he flipped the asset to the right buyer immediately, wouldn't that change the game? Click. Aria suddenly realized the prince was playing 4-dimensional chess. But was the prince really smart enough to pull that off? It felt like a stretch. Deep in thought, she headed for the stairs, but Asher stopped her in her tracks. He started hyping her up, and honestly, his straight talk was refreshing. It felt good. If only Oscar had that kind of backbone. Meanwhile, back at the snake pit, Mielle was dressed to kill, waiting for the princess. A luxurious carriage rolled slowly down the street. The streets were buzzing. The Vigay casino buyout was the only trending topic in town. Inside the carriage, Isis was seething. She didn't want a discount casino. She wanted leverage to crush the crown prince. Which low-tier idiot suggested this buyout? It completely ruined her strategy. The noble faction just got outplayed. She never saw it coming. Meanwhile, Mielle was beaming, waiting for her idol. After some fake pleasantries, Isis gifted her some top-shelf black tea. As they spilled tea in the garden, Isis spotted the bling pinned to Mielle's chest. It looked exactly like Oscar's. Mielle couldn't hide her smirk, thinking she was special. But oh, honey, no. Isis wasn't dumb. She knew Oscar gave the real deal to Aria, so she custom-ordered a high-quality dupe for Mielle. Here's the twist: Mielle was putting on an Oscar-worthy performance herself. She knew it wasn't from Oscar. But playing dumb is the price of admission for social climbers kissing up to royalty. Grind the peasants into dust. Stay flexible. That is the rule. But Count Ross dude was way too chill. Even married a woman from the streets. Isis was low-key cursing Rost out in her head. Then she switched gears, dying to finally meet Aria. She wanted to see exactly what kind of monster this woman was. But plot twist, the second Aria walked in, her aura was blinding. Isis literally could not keep her eyes open. After a quick hello, Aria sat down. The power gap between them, massive. And Isis went straight for the throat. It was like a rabid wolf cornering a shaking chihuahua. Aria was internally screaming at Annie for not warning her about this ambush. But whatever survival plan enabled, as long as she did not fumble, she could escape back to her room and crash. Predictably, Isis started grilling Aria on the tea's flavor profile, trying to catch her slipping. She totally expected Aria to fail. But Aria did not just nail the description, she dropped the specific brand name. Mic drop. Isis looked incredibly awkward and dismissed Aria immediately. Thank God for that hourglass rewind. Without it, those two mean girls would have roasted her alive. After that showdown, Aria realized Isis was not just mean, she was a legitimate threat. Annie burst in, apologizing profusely and holding intel from her brother. The letter spilled the tea. Sugar prices had already pumped tens of times over. The drama between the noble families was escalating fast. At dinner, Mielle was struggling with the bland, sugar-free desserts. Even Rost admitted the food tasted like cardboard without sugar. Turns out the prince had the sugar shipment on lockdown at customs. Rost was complaining hard, but Aria actually vibed with the move. If she were the prince, she would not show mercy to these greedy elites either. Meanwhile, since the plantation had a monopoly, nobles were panic buying like crazy. They were dropping 30, even 40 times the original price, and the infighting was getting intense. A silent war had officially kicked off. Now the stockpiled sugar was trading at 30 times its value. Annie was confused. If the lady sold her stash now, she would not make that much more later. But Aria was not thinking like a merchant. Her goal was to watch the nobles destroy each other over sweet dust, not just stack cash. Annie did not really get it, but Aria suddenly snapped at Barry, who was lurking in the corner. She demanded to know why. The tea temp was trash, and the cookies tasted bland. Barry tried to explain that sugar was too expensive now, but Aria cut her off with a savage scolding. Annie jumped in to add fuel to the fire, but her trash talk triggered a memory for Aria. Back when the food was nasty, she bought perfumes to cope. Sweet scents could actually trick the brain into feeling good. While she was deep in thought, she remembered she was not done tormenting Barry and barked out more orders. Aria hit the books. Turns out that perfume she bought from Bevan's back in the day was sweet, but the owner was too broke to scale up. Once it went mainstream, the snobby nobles ditched it instantly. I choose you. Aria decided to roll the dice on him. A while later, Baron Bevan's got a letter from Aria asking for just 30% of the profits. It was like she knew it was going to blow up, but the signature just read, investor. Weeks later, Aria got a care package from Bevan's. The letter thanked him for the foresight and included a necktie. Yeah, a gift for a dude. Aria paused. Looks like Bevan's assumed his angel investor was a man. Perfect cover. After thinking it over, she told Annie to prep the carriage as soon as possible. She hit the clothing store for a fresh fit. Looking elegant as hell, Aria strolled into Bevan's perfume shop and demanded to see the boss. Bevan sat down and was instantly mesmerized by the stunner in front of him. Being totally clueless, he took the meeting without knowing who she was. Aria was unamused. When she dropped the bomb that she was the investor, Bevan's literally slapped his own face. Did he just catch feelings for a minor cringe? Aria ignored the awkwardness and drilled him on the product's future. Surprisingly, he wanted to keep prices low so regular folks could enjoy the same sense as the nobility. Aria smirked. Looks like she did not bet on the wrong horse. But saying that kind of idealistic stuff to a beauty on the first meeting, Bevan's turned tomato red. He stammered out that he trusted Aria implicitly. Then she dropped the bombshell about the anonymous backer. Aria didn't even blink. She just coolly unfastened her bow tie and draped it right around Bevan's neck. The second he clocked that tie, the realization hit him like a truck. The mystery boss calling the shots was Aria all along, standing right there in the flesh. Panicking, he scrambled out of there, totally mortified by his own cluelessness. Meanwhile, Annie was chilling in the hallway waiting for her mistress. She had already secured every single perfume on Aria's wish list. Hearing the word buy sent Bevan's into a spiral. He realized his boss was ready to buy out the inventory, just to drink it if she had to. Not wanting to look bad, he immediately ordered the staff to curate an ultra-luxury perfume bundle, tossing in practically every scent in the shop as a tribute to Aria. He even threw in the store's latest flex, a magical bouquet engineered to stay fresh forever. And just to be safe, he handed a bouquet to Annie, who was standing there like a third wheel. Annie froze, totally unsure how to react. As she accepted the white flowers, Aria side-eyed the situation. Realizing this was the perfect moment to hype up her girl, she stepped in, smoothing over the intro with master-level social skills. Baron Bevans officially met Annie amidst a flurry of polite compliments that had the maid turning beet red. Aria smirked from the sidelines, teasing, "Is the Baron powerless against a pretty face, or is it just us?" At the same time, she whispered a strict warning to keep her identity on the down low. On the ride back home, Annie was sighing like a lovesick teenager. Apparently, Bevins was one of those guys with accidental riz seducing people without trying. It didn't work on Aria, obviously, but for Annie, it was a fatal hit for her first crush, seeing her maid so down bad. Aria started calculating. They were actually a solid match. If she could engineer this marriage, every servant, in her orbit, herself included, would reap major benefits. The only puzzle piece missing was figuring out how to get Annie to lock Bevins down. The carriage rolled up to the mansion, but the perfume hall didn't go to Aria's room. Instead, she had it staged prominently in the first-floor living room. Aria casually told Annie to distribute the goods among the maids. And hey, if they ran out, Annie was authorized to go restock. Annie lit up instantly. The chance to see her dreamy Baron again was enough to make her whole week. Predictably, the perfume supply mysteriously vanished in record time. Annie got herself all glammed up and headed to Bevins's shop for a restock run. Bevins was stoked to see her, but he spent the whole time asking about Aria, which totally killed Annie's vibe. She came back at sunset looking like a kicked puppy. Aria sensed the mood shift immediately and pressed for details. When she found out Annie was feeling insecure about her looks compared to Aria, she realized Bevins had been running his mouth. Aria went into full manipulation mode. Listen, love is about weighing profit and loss. You don't love Bevins, you love his bank account. Just like that, Annie's heartbreak vanished. Her brain was now reformatted with Miss Aria's logic. That night, Mielle was still sulking at dinner because she was banned from sugar, while Aria was happily feasting. Had her taste buds finally recovered? Confused, Mielle caught a whiff of the expensive scent on the maids, and the pieces clicked. It looks like everyone in this house is dancing in the palm of my hand. Later that day, Ryan showed up, yet again lugging a mountain of gift boxes. Aria assumed they were for her, but plot twist, they were for Mielle again. Just then, Ryan signaled a servant to sneak Aria's actual gift to her room. Aria gave a vague reply, barely noticing the door click shut. The servant pulled back his hood, revealing Asher's face. Aria didn't even flinch. At this point, Asher teleporting in and out of her life was just a typical Tuesday. Since they hadn't linked up in a while, the tension between them had only gotten thicker. This time, Asher didn't have a mission. He just wanted to see her. What could possibly be more important than you? Hearing that line, Aria actually blushed. But she had to ask why give all the candy to Mielle. Asher admitted it was a stall tactic to buy more alone time with Aria. Hearing that she relaxed, but Asher instantly clocked that she was jealous of Mielle. Caught red-handed, Aria turned 50 shades of red. Was she really just using him, or was this getting real? Even her own excuses were starting to sound weak. Asher seized the moment, stepping into her personal space. "I swear, from now on, you're the only one getting gifts." Before things could heat up, Ryan swooped in and dragged him out. Moments later, Jessie burst in with the afternoon tea. Aria opened the mysterious box Asher left behind, revealing a stunning high-end dress. She thought, is this an apology for the mix-up earlier? A satisfied smile spread across Aria's face. Oscar was officially useless now. Looks like she needs to chart a new path to the top. Annie dropped a massive stack of letters. Baron Bevins was practically begging for her to look them over. Seeing Annie vibrating with excitement, Aria knew the Baron had completely flipped the script on how he treated her. With Aria's help, they were absolutely killing it. Annie couldn't stop raving about Aria's spooky foresight. Little did she know, Aria was just cheating with intel she memorized from her past life. Then, Asher's face flashed in her mind. Boom! Aria's face turned beet red instantly. By the next sunset, Aria took the carriage to Sarah's place. She'd snagged an invite to hang out with her in the marquee. The doors opened and the marquee was waiting. Then Sarah came sprinting out looking like she just won the lottery, seeing Aria. So the three of them sat down for dinner. Aria thanked them, but the marquis acted like it was totally natural. Sarah kept gushing about their best memories, a massive grin plastered on her face. She called Aria her soulmate. Aria paused. She had to remind herself, focus. You're here for revenge, not a best friends forever. Sarah was supposed to be just a pawn, but that pure joy right in front of her, it was getting hard to ignore. Deep down, Aria really did wish her well. Her own birthday was creeping up, but she wanted zero drama this year. Why? Because Mielle's birthday bash was next. The Imperial Princess was coming, and everyone would be losing their minds over it. No point trying to outshine that circus. So Aria's big day came and went. Quiet. Simple. Well, except for those anonymous tulips showing up. Then Mielle's party finally hit. The place was swarming with people. Aria just took a seat on the sidelines, staying out of the way. She watched coldly as these classy nobles tore her apart with the nastiest whispers about her background. Then Oscar and Mielle walked in with the princess's mother. The crowd was buzzing. The princess stepped to the front and dropped the bomb Mielle would marry Oscar the second she came of age. Aria watched him slide that engagement ring onto Mielle's finger. Sure, flirting with Oscar started as a game to tick off Mielle, but now he was officially a discarded card. Still, if he had actually stood his ground and chosen her, Aria cut that thought off. It hurt too much to go there. She bolted, ran straight to the window. Did she actually catch feelings for that guy? No, she was just pissed she lost a valuable pawn. Was there seriously stuff in this world that hard work couldn't buy? Disappointment hit her like a brick wall. She dragged herself to her bedroom door and froze. A gift box. Inside the brooch she gave Oscar. Aria saw red. That absolute scumbag. He does nothing. Gets engaged to Mielle, then sends this back to play mind games about old times. Was she supposed to feel special? She was about to smash it on the floor when she spotted the tulips. Bright, delicate. Aria froze. Why was she wasting energy raging over a loser like him? She wasn't that weak girl anymore. She had cash, influence, and power. Why was she doubting herself? Mielle hadn't even shown her true colors yet. If Aria sat back now, she was dead meat. She wasn't going out like she did in her past life. Later at the table, everyone was debating Mielle's wedding date. Aria pinned that red rose brooch right on her chest and flashed it at Mielle. She loudly claimed she found it at her door on engagement day. Just as fancy as a ducal design, right? Mielle connected the dots and looked ready to explode. Aria smirked and tossed the brooch aside like trash. Mielle was fuming over Aria's stunt. She tried to write to the princess, but her maid stopped her. She'd already sent a huge letter, begging the princess to announce the date. But the princess was completely swamped right now, dealing with internal noble drama. They needed a new plan. The maid suggested targeting the new money crowd, up-and-coming commoners. So Mielle started hosting back-to-back tea parties, inviting only commoner wives. Aria smelled a rat. She decided to investigate personally and crashed Mielle's little tea party. Room for one more. Mielle's face went stiff. She was about to kick her out, but the guests couldn't read the room. They were obsessed with Aria, the infamous villainess from the rumors. Aria slid right in, but then she realized something hilarious about the guest list. These women were all married to men Aria had just invested in. Looks like Mielle was trying to recruit them too. The wives couldn't stop bragging about their genius mystery investor who saved them. Aria forced an awkward smile. Hearing them worship her to her face was actually kinda cringe. She switched the topic to perfume to dig for info. So the conversation turns to Mrs. versus Hustle, and naturally everyone's raving about her immaculate taste. But look at Mielle's face, she is shook. Wives actually working. She throws some shade, suggesting they should just hire permanent staff instead. Aria immediately claps back with a cold laugh, asking what's so wrong with a queen lightening her king's load. Tension is spiking, so the other ladies jump in to de-escalate before a catfight breaks out. Even though they're totally vibing with Aria's point, they nod along with Mielle just to keep the peace. They promise to hire staff later, but deep down, Mielle's hatred for Aria is reaching critical levels. She isn't done yet. She doubles down, claiming that handling filthy money directly is beneath a true lady. That one sentence basically insulted every single woman in the room, including Aria. Trying to fix the vibe, Mielle pulls out gifts, brooches shaped like roses. Aria is internally cackling at the desperation. The rose is the ducal family's symbol. Mielle is trying to flex her future status before she even has the ring on her finger. The merchant wives panic, feeling the gifts are way too expensive, and try to turn them down. Mielle pushes, suggesting that next time, she'll host the tea party and introduce her high society friends. The wives immediately shut that down, claiming the Duke's circle is way out of their league. Mielle storms off, salty as ever, while Aria smirks. Aria seizes the moment and offers to host the tea party herself, but the ladies hesitate. Just as Aria starts feeling a little bummed, the wives flip the script and invite Aria to join their private circle instead. Cut to Ryan pulling out the invitation from the Verse family and handing it to Asher. The prince is definitely intrigued by these new capitalists and the mysterious investor pulling the strings. He decides it's time to crash the party. Meanwhile, the beef with the noble faction is heating up. Those corrupt lackeys are terrified of the crown prince's crackdown, so they petitioned to have him exiled to the border. Even Asher's dad called him back urgently. But Asher just smiles. He's done playing nice. Ever since the casino negotiation, the gloves are off. He's going to take out these old parasites one by one. Ryan is hyping up Aria, calling her a genius. Handing the casino over to the nobles was a 4D chess move. Asher starts daydreaming about that blonde mastermind. His face turns bright red as he agrees. You gotta admit the power of love is wild. It turns even the most calculated schemers into honest simps. Ryan suggests he could use his teleportation powers to visit Miss Aria right now, but Asher shuts it down. Even though he's dying to see her, teleporting drains too much mana. But that longing, that's the fuel keeping him going. Hope to see you soon, my beautiful Aria. Asher gets back to the grind. He decides to approve the price drop on luxury goods and sends the letter to the neutral faction. It looks like he's caving to the nobles, but it's a trap, taking a step back to launch a bigger attack. After all, a sudden price crash is going to wreck the market order. The neutral faction reads the letter and starts panicking, thinking the crown prince's future is looking shaky. Back in the capital, Aria catches wind of the prince's latest moves. Tons of nobles are going bankrupt, and the casinos are under investigation. Aria starts visualizing the financial ruin of the Rost family. Picturing them out on the streets makes her blush with pure joy. It would be absolutely delicious. She snaps back to reality, staring down at her maid Barry, who looks miserable, moving that slow. Am I going to get my tea next year? Or what? Barry is trembling. Aria smashes the porcelain cup on the floor, smiling as she orders Barry to clean up the mess. The maid was just there to deliver a message, but Aria is remembering how this snake manipulated her in the past timeline. Sighing at how tragically naive she used to be, Aria lets out a soft laugh. She orders Barry to drink every drop of the tea she just brewed. Barry looks sick, but Aria is thriving on her suffering. Later at the Ross dinner table, everyone is debating the neutral faction's reaction. Aria starts wondering if Asher is actually the Emperor's illegitimate son. Baron Rost asks for Aria's take on the situation. Aria isn't about to help him, so she plays the airhead card, pretending she knows nothing. Mielle throws some sarcastic shade, but the new capitalists' meeting is just around the corner. Aria secured her invite, but the real plot twist: Asher crashed the meeting undercover as Panolo. That's how they crossed paths. Aria was absolutely shook. She never guessed Asher's true identity was the broker Panolo. Where did you get that kind of cash? Aria grilled him, staring daggers. Who knew Asher would get shifty-eyed? Leaving Aria speechless and fuming. Asher looked totally awkward, but they kept stealing secret glances, sizing up each other's glow-up. Aria took the stage like a boss, and her unique takes on the last tea party earned her unanimous praise. But Asher, he was too busy watching Aria look at other guys, burning with jealousy inside. Then he smirked. As the new investor, he stepped up to pitch his project. It turned out to be an academy, and the kicker: everyone, including commoners, could enroll. Aria was stunned. It looked like business, but this move from Asher was handing a lifeline to the lower class. Was he doing this because she showed him hope Aria secretly celebrated? But Asher shut it down. The Empire needs talent. Aria felt a knot in her stomach. Turns out she was clowning herself with false hope. After the meeting, Aria decided to completely ghost Asher. But Asher trotted over like a loyal puppy to say hi. As they walked, Aria felt the sting of disappointment. She realized Asher was the young broker Panolo back there, but he kept denying it. Aria was confused, putting her guard up. Was he really just an illegitimate son? Then Asher dragged Aria to a forest, claiming it was right next to the capital. Aria snapped. Are you still lying to me? We are miles away. You can't walk here that fast. This man clearly loved her, yet he played dumb and lied to her face. It was infuriating. Aria's gaze turned icy. Asher led her to a cabin and finally started spilling the tea about his family's unique ability, teleportation. Since Aria held the hourglass of time, it clicked immediately. Then Asher dropped the bomb. Panolo was just an alias. His real identity? Asher, the Crown Prince. What? The Crown Prince? Aria stood frozen, a chaotic mix of embarrassment and rage. The world spun around her. Asher looked at her helplessly, silently begging her to treat him like normal. But that was a tall order for Aria. The guy standing there was literal royalty, and she had been so disrespectful before. Asher reassured her he didn't care about the attitude. Actually, he found her charm irresistible. Aria instantly blushed. To him, she was like a feisty kitten, totally adorable. But duty called, so Asher only had time to press a soft kiss to her hand, promising to write later. Aria walked home, clutching her hand, feeling sweet and dizzy. It wasn't long before Asher's project proposal arrived. Aria wasn't about to fumble a connection with the royal family. She signed the papers immediately. But panic set in. How does she tell Asher she's the investor? Later, at a lively Rossant family dinner, Mom brought up Sarah's engagement to the Marquis, flexing her daughter's connection. Mielle looked like she swallowed a lemon. Her dad, Baron Rossant, immediately started sucking up to Aria, but she ignored him cold. She was disgusted by his fake behavior. Just then a letter from Asher arrived. It was just a simple greeting, but Aria's mood skyrocketed. Maybe that's the power of love. Soon, Sarah's engagement party arrived. Aria coordinated a matching outfit with Sarah, dressing to impress. Her beauty left Mielle stunned. Aria gave Sarah the gift she had prepared. With so much care, the two besties hadn't seen each other in ages and hugged it out happily. Mielle crashed the vibe, introducing herself to Sarah while taking a subtle dig at Aria. Sarah heard her best friend get disrespected, and her glare could kill. She was secretly worried about Aria's situation. The Marquis saw his wife, looked upset, and rushed to comfort her. Sarah looked at him shyly, genuinely wishing in her heart that Aria could find a good man too. Aria followed her father through the banquet, becoming the main character of the night, but Aria felt hollow hearing everyone's praise, feeling like she was floating in a past life. A mix of nostalgia and repulsion washed over her entire body. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared. snapping Aria out of her thoughts. She bolted after Asher. The night was pitch black. She couldn't find him. Just as disappointment hit, a warm coat dropped onto her shoulders. Aria looked up at the garment Asher had draped over her. Her face went beet red. They whispered sweet nothings in the garden, Aria, hoping for the day Asher could stand by her side in the light. Asher stepped into the lion's den to recruit the Marquis, but keeping his cool impossible. His heart was already racing for someone else. To avoid a total war with the noble faction, he was forced to admire Aria from the shadows. Look but don't touch. Moonlight cascaded over Aria's golden locks, leaving Asher completely spellbound. For a second, she looked ethereal like a reflection rippling on water, ready to vanish. He pressed a tender kiss to her forehead, a silent goodbye to their stolen moment. Screech, a sharp, biting scream shattered the silence. Imperial Princess Isis had caught them red-handed. Busted. She went full Karen, ranting about their indecency, but Asher, he felt absolutely zero for his fiancé on paper. Honestly, the guy never planned to put a ring on it anyway, so he hit Her Highness with some ice-cold sarcasm. He told her straight up he'd rather stay a bachelor for eternity than walk her down the aisle. That set the princess off, but Asher just smirked. Then he dropped the bomb, a subtle threat about those shady casino ledgers. Checkmate. Back at her palace, Isis was fuming. The more she stewed, the madder she got. She knew she couldn't touch the crown prince directly. But Aria, that manipulative little vixen seducing everyone, oh, she had to be deleted. Permanently. Perfect timing. Just as the princess was plotting her revenge, guess who waltzes in Mielle? Isis seized the moment to suggest a takedown on Aria. Mielle was practically vibrating with excitement. Mielle had been setting traps for Aria non-stop at home, but now, with royal backing, her brain was flooding with wicked schemes. Meanwhile, Aria was lounging on the sofa, side-eyeing Barry. The maid was acting totally sus. Suddenly, Annie burst in, beaming like sunshine, waving a letter from Panolo. Aria's mind drifted to Asher. His situation was a mirror image of her own past life struggles. Maybe fate was playing matchmaker, pairing two power players to rewrite history. Together, they could shatter their destined paths. Annie was hyping it up. Ever since that banquet, the lady was drowning in suitors. But Barry stood there, frozen stiff, refusing to pour tea for Annie. It was getting awkward. Aria, testing the waters, told Annie to take a sip of hers. Annie brought the cup to her lips, but Smackberry knocked it away violently. Annie started cursing up a storm immediately. Suddenly, Annie went ghost pale and collapsed. Dead weight. Aria didn't hesitate. She lunged at Barry and snatched her up by the hair. It was a flashback nightmare. The symptoms were identical to how her mother died in the previous timeline. This confirmed it. Barry was her mother's killer too. Aria gripped the hourglass and the sands of time began their slow reverse spin. Whoosh! Time rewound to the exact second before that tea touched Annie's lips. But this time, Aria grabbed the lethal cocktail herself. She took a sip, and as Barry watched with a twisted, satisfied grin, Aria hit the floor. Panic set in, and Barry bolted, practically signing her confession. The rumors were true. The maid poisoned her mistress. Of course, Aria was ready for it. She woke up fast. Mielle rushed in, putting on her best worried sister performance. Aria flipped the script, playing the saintly big sister. She subtly dropped hints that Mielle was the one pulling Barry's strings. If Aria hadn't intervened, it would have been her precious little sister convulsing on the floor today. Seeing Aria so fragile broke everyone's hearts. The sympathy card worked, and the news spread like wildfire.